All right, guys, with that, we're going to get started here. This is Chris Marshall. Obviously, we have Alex, Dan Miller, and Brian deBrauwere on the call. So I want to take this opportunity to thank you guys for taking your time or some time out of your busy nights with family. I don't know about you guys, but after spending a couple of weeks down in the Carolinas running some camps with John and a bunch of our really talented instructors, I'm really excited to get started. And I really hope you guys are feeling the same way I am. Just really excited to get the season going. A quick note before we really get rolling here. Any umpires receiving a schedule, conference or non-conference, in the America East this year, I want you guys to stay on the line after we finish this phone call. We have to discuss a couple things regarding a contract that was mailed out to you guys and some of the fees for the season. So anyone working games in the America East, just stay on the line at the end of this, and we can discuss and answer any of those questions you may have. Okay. So I want to kick it off basically talking about what it takes to be a college umpire. To me, it's dedication to the game, your partners, the schools, and the teams that we work for. So, guys, one quick reminder, anyone who's on the phone call now, just please mute your lines just to try to keep some of that background noise down. So like I was saying, it's dedication to all those things. And I think that when we get the season rolling here, we're all excited to be out there, but we really got to work hard just to show that dedication to the game. Doing the right thing on and off the field, which most of us do, and I know we have this conversation every single year. But let's just be good people out there, good partners, good ambassadors of the game, because your actions on and off the field reflect not only upon yourself, but the organization and the conferences that we work for. So it should be our goal every time we're out there to be better than you were the day before. And I think most of us are doing that. But if we go into the season with the mindset of working hard every out, every inning, every game, then that's what really builds success. And that's why we're successful at what we do. Going into the season, our preseason commitment, I know a lot of you guys are doing cage work and scrimmages. In a little while, Daniel will jump on the call here and talk to you guys about that a bit. But, let's make sure that the first time we're on the field, we're not seeing the first pitch or the first play of the season. Let's make sure that we're working just as hard as some of those teams are. And I know a lot of you guys are doing that, and I thank you for that. We're going to talk a little bit about the rules here, and obviously we've gone through the rules clinic and the test this year. But let's make sure that we're studying them throughout the season. And guys that have worked for us in the past, you guys are used to a lot of these phone calls. And for the new guys, we're going to do it, 4 or 5 times a season just to make sure you guys are up on it. But let's not let the first time or the last time you looked at the rule book be the first time. Let's make sure that we're staying in that book, studying and working hard throughout the season to stay sharp, And, a lot of us take a look at that book every day. So let's make sure we continue to work hard at that. Let's make sure that our minds, our bodies, our fitness, our diet, all those things are ready to go. Hopefully a lot of you guys have been putting in work to make sure you're in the best condition. If not, then, let's work hard make sure we work hard to work at that and make sure that your bodies are going to hold up. It's a long season, especially when we start out in a lot of areas where we play baseball games. It's not the best condition. So let's just make sure that we prepare and work hard to get through that season, because we're going to get dinged up, we're going to get tired, but we have to make sure that we work hard to kind of push through it, and we appreciate when you guys do that. I want to touch briefly on the NCAA test, the online clinic, and the arbiter registration. Guys, I know we had some issues this year. We had a number of guys come up and show up on a list of people that did not either take the test or view the clinic. A lot of those, or most of those, were resolved. Just for whatever reason, the NCAA didn't give us a lot of those numbers. But we had some people that didn't follow through with some of those requirements that we ask, and because of it, we're not using some people. So, let's make sure that we do what we're supposed to do. Let's run our college baseball like a small business. It's your small business, and we ask you to do the right thing. And that can be as simple as just managing your availability throughout the season and making sure that you're current with your calendar, throughout the season. We understand that we have family obligations, work obligations, things change, but it makes Alex and myself, our job, so much easier when you guys are just making sure that you keep those things up to date. Once we get rolling with the season here, we all know that weather plays an impact, and it's frustrating when we try to assign games when guys are open and only to receive an email or a phone call saying, hey, you know what, I can't work this game, I should have been closed. So, those are the things that, we can control. So let's just make sure that we do that and we keep everything up to date because, once again, you're managing your own small business. And some of us do a better job than others, but let's all strive to make sure that we work really hard to keep all those things current. All right, Alex is going to talk to you a little bit now about turn back, deadlines, and how we're going to manage those situations.
Good evening, guys. Thanks for joining us. This is a really great turnout tonight, really close to 200 here, so that's great. I know we're all excited to get the season started, and hopefully the weather cooperates into the season as it's been cooperating here the few weeks before. I won't touch on upstate New York, Chris, but certainly in New Jersey we've been having some nice weather. So I want to talk about a couple of things. First of all, I just want to mention, as part of kind of managing your business and then also kind of helping Chris and I out a lot, when you have games in Arbiter, be checking in either with both schools' websites or with the schools directly. Some will call you, some you'll have to call, things of that nature. But if you could, for us, one of the great things about technology is almost 100% of the schools we assign have websites up with their games. And if you see any discrepancies that we should know about, I know I had some emails today with guys helping us out in that way. And if you see a series was switched from Saturday, Sunday to Friday, Saturday, or a time really looks funky, whatever it is, certainly reach out to us and say, hey, this is, what I saw, and this is what the websites have, and just let us know. It's just kind of a third or fourth check on, Chris and I entering schedules, and then schools also checking their schedules, and then you guys kind of double checking and triple checking. So that's always really helpful, and we'll avoid that inevitable once a season where somebody shows up to a field and it's like, oh shit, what happened here? So just be doing that for us, and certainly reach out to Chris and I with anything there. And then just on communication in general, I kind of say this every year, email's always first, and please copy myself and copy Chris. You will see that every once in a while something gets sent out from that Mac UCU assigner at umpires.org address. That's not a real email address, guys, so please don't respond to emails that come from there, because that email goes off into technology wonderland, and I never really get a copy of it. So if you do happen to get an email from that address, please don't just reply. Make sure that you're sending an email to Chris and I directly. And for everything, all levels, just be copying Chris and I on everything. That way, if Chris gets to it, if I get to it, whoever gets to it first, we'll try to deal with it. And then, obviously, phone numbers for Chris and I you guys have. And the big one that I say every year, please avoid sending us text messages with anything important. My number of text messages is through the roof, and as most of you guys know, 4 or 5 text messages stay on that screen, and then they kind of go away as they get lost. So I don't want anything to get lost, so please don't send us anything vital via text message. That's really important. As far as fees, I sent you guys an email last night that all of our fees should be updated for every level, every division, everything. I'm sure there are mistakes. I have no doubt that there are mistakes in travel and tolls. Now, for a lot of our levels, it really doesn't matter because the numbers are flat. But we do pay tolls in the Ivy League and in the NEC. So if you're working either conference or non-conference in either one of those conferences and you think you're entitled to a Hudson River toll, or an East River toll, certainly please let me know if it's not in there. I would say the biggest one that everyone should be checking is the NEC non-conference and the Ivy non-conference. I think I got mostly all of them for the conference level, but there may be some that fell through the cracks in the non-conference. And if you see it, certainly shoot me an email and I'll get it put in there. It's always helpful if you do it a few days in advance because the school's going to pull that down. And once they pull it down, then I've got an issue with they've pulled down a number and now I've changed it, and it's hard to kind of recoup that $20 or $34 or $40, whatever it may be. I want to talk a little bit about turnbacks and kind of a turnback deadline and just in general the way that, Chris and I look at this stuff. So first of all, we understand that things come up. Things come up with family. Things come up unexpectedly. Your son's game gets moved from Wednesday to Thursday. It gets moved from Wednesday to Tuesday. And those are all things that, we think are very important in terms of personal obligations, work obligations. Just give us as much notice as you can on those things, and we'll work with you where we can, how we can. I think, we understand that those things are important and we want to work with you on them. So just get in touch with us as soon as you can. Phrase your email the right way, phrase your call the right way, and we'll do everything that we can for you. One thing that I've extended to everyone in the past with our junior college schedules, so today's February 11th. I know that some people have junior college games on their schedule, and they may have an opportunity with some different assigners who may or may not have assigned all their games yet, and may want an opportunity to say work some higher levels, some D2 or D3. I would just ask, if you want a date to be open for a D2 or D3 game, please just give us the junior college games back now. Because unfortunately, what can happen is games are assigned the week of games and things like that by other assigners. Now we're in a spot where it's really difficult for us to put a schedule together if on a Tuesday or Wednesday I'm getting 9, 10, 11 junior college games back. So if it's your preference to leave those dates open, certainly, give those junior college games back now. That's not a problem. We'll get them filled. No harm, no foul, no big deal. We certainly understand. But I hope you understand the predicament that Chris and I are in when different people are putting out their schedules on a weekly basis. The other thing I'll say is if something is a rain out or a makeup during the season and it's, a D2 or a D3 game, given what I just said, don't be afraid to ask the question, but also be ready that we may have to say no. So if you're going to ask the question, that's fine. Again, no harm, no foul. But just remember, if we have to say, hey, we don't have anybody on that date to replace you, you're asking me to replace you to work a D2 game with 16 hours notice, understand where Chris and I are coming from if we do have to say no. So that's a little bit of a change in policy because I really do want to work with you guys, and I want you guys to work the best baseball policy possible. But certainly just understand that personally you're not the only umpire that we deal with, and we have to look at an entire schedule, all of the conferences we represent, all of United that's represented, and we'll do everything we can to help you guys work the best baseball you can. But keep in mind that sometimes if you do things on very short notice, it can be very difficult. So again, for the junior college stuff, if you want to be open for D2 or D3, certainly, give the games back, send us an email, not an issue. And that's really all that I will say about that. Chris, you want to go on bat testing procedures?
Yeah, before that, everything Alex said, is we understand, and we certainly want you guys to work, and we understand at times that, you guys work for other assigners, other coordinators, and it's difficult trying to manage some of this stuff. Believe me, we understand that. But like I said earlier, it's doing the right thing, guys, and we work really hard to get schedules out early so you guys can make plans and arrangements not only with other assigners and coordinators, but also with family and work and all those things. So, just respect the fact that we know and understand how the climate is, but there is a certain level of loyalty that, we feel is only fair. And just do the right thing. Communicate with us, be transparent and honest, and we certainly will do our best to work with you. All right. Jumping into bat testing, guys, that's certainly a topic in a situation I've had a lot of conversations with all of the conferences on at Division I, and the next year it's going to be happening in Division III as well. So the message I want to deliver to you guys here is that we really play no role in this at all. For guys that were checking bats years ago and going up to the field early, running your hand over them, we don't do any of that. We don't do anything in the dugout. So this is all a procedure that happens before the game, probably before we're even there. And these conferences and schools have figured all that out. So we don't play a role in it. What I would suggest is that just to ask them at home plate if their bats are all set. We don't have to go through and say specifically, is all your equipment legal? Just ask if they're all set. One thing we do have to have knowledge of, however, is the stickers they'll be using based on whether it's a conference weekend, a midweek game. So there's some things that a lot of these conferences are trying to figure out and work through. I'll do my best to, once I get some more information from the conferences, to forward to you, exactly which stickers to look for. But honestly, all you have to do is just ask the teams, ask the home team, hey, what color are we using? And they'll supply that information to you. If we do have an illegal bat, either with no sticker or the wrong sticker, simply, guys, it's an illegal bat, and it's the same rules that apply that we've been using, for the last number of years with the illegal bat situations. And the last thing I really want to talk about is, guys, we're not the bat police. We're not asking you to inspect and stare at every single bat that comes to the plate. We have to assume that the schools and the conferences are doing their job properly. They're testing them, and if the bat comes to the plate, it must be legal. And certainly if there is a situation where there's a sticker issue, I'm quite sure that a team is probably going to point it out to you, much like they have in the past with an illegal bat. So the biggest takeaway from this is we really don't have a lot to do with it, but just know what to do if, in fact, the situation does come up. Okay?
Hey, Chris, it's Alex.
Yeah. Yep.
Just a quick question. We may have to get an answer on it, and I don't know if it's something that you've talked about on coordinator calls, but inevitably we are going to have some midweek game where somebody's machine doesn't work or they just completely screwed the pooch or something, and we don't have either team bat tested. Do we have an answer from the NCAA as to whether they want that game played or not played, or is that something we got to get back to these guys on? And I know it sounds far-fetched, but I think and I know that inevitably that could happen.
Yeah, no, it really isn't. And the last call we had, guys, they didn't really say a whole lot. Basically, they just said that they have to be tested. So my takeaway from that is if they can't test it, the game can't be played. I know what I've been suggesting to any coaches that I speak with, and specifically to neutral site games, which isn't an issue for you guys to deal with. It's more on our end. But I've been suggesting to coaches that they bring their machines with them. And, in fact, there are some conferences out there across the country that do ask for teams to do that, just based on the fact that, if a machine breaks or isn't reading properly or for whatever reason they don't have one, they do need a backup. So we'll work on getting an answer for you guys and certainly pass that along to you so we know what to do, if that does happen. We'll get an answer for you. Brian, you there?
I am here.
It's your show, buddy.
Cool. Let's talk about bat barrel color. So in addition to the bat testing that's taking place this year, there's also a rule about the bat barrel and what color it can't be. And that states that the color must be of a predominantly contrasting color to the color of the baseball between the 18-inch mark and the end cap, which is essentially the barrel. Please note that this does not say that there cannot be any white on the barrel. So there can be a white logo, there can be white lettering. It just cannot be predominantly the same color of the baseball. So as long as we have majority dark color, as long as that's the primary color that we're working with, we should be fine. Moving on to a new wristband regulation. Pitchers are now allowed to use wristbands. That is an effort to speed up the signaling process from the bench to the defense. Now things can go directly to the pitcher if he has the same card that the rest of the defense has. The regulations there would be that the wristband must be on the glove hand, so not the pitching hand or the pitching arm. It must be black or a solid dark color with no white emblems or writing. And so, for instance, if there's a Nike swoosh, that would have to be darkened in with a Sharpie or some other means of making that the same color as the rest of the armband. So no white at all. And they've also asked that if there's a shiny plastic element to the wristband, that go on the inside of the arm so that it's not facing the batter while the pitcher's in his pitching motion. Card holders on the belt buckle are legal, and that is providing that they don't open up. There can't be a flap on those belt buckle card holders for pitchers. All right, transitioning into the 20-second rule. Let's make sure that we are very aware that any pitcher who violates this rule gets a warning. So if we do get to a point where there's a violation for a pitcher, there is a warning for each pitcher that violates. Now, that's different than the hitters, which if a hitter violates, they do not get the same warning. They get the strike immediately. There may be some confusion if you look at the rule book because Appendix F still only talks about situation when there are no runners on. And of course, we know that now this clock will be running all of the time, including when there are runners on base. So it's important to know that there are some differences in the regulation when there's a runner on base and when there are no runners on base. So just to quickly review when the timer does stop and reset. So the timer stops and resets when the pitcher begins the wind-up motion or begins the motion to come set. Now notice that didn't say when they release the ball. It's just beginning the wind-up motion or beginning the motion to come set. The clock will also stop and reset if there's a pickoff attempt to any base or a feinted pickoff attempt to any base or stepping off the rubber with runners on base. In those cases, the timer will reset and start again immediately, and that's different than with no runners on base when simply stepping off the rubber would not stop the clock unless the umpire were to grant time. Another case when the clock will stop and reset is if the catcher leaves the catcher's box to give defensive signals or, of course, to have a conference with the pitcher. And the clock would then start again after the catcher returns to the catcher's box. And kind of the trump card here is clock will stop and reset if the umpire at any point calls time. And Chris and Alex will talk more about the practical application of this rule in a moment, but recognize that we have a lot of control over that clock. Calling time is always a good answer if we have a situation that we feel like we need to manage. And with that, I'll throw it back to those guys, but not before saying good luck to everyone. Have a great season and make it your best one yet.
Guys, just on the bat list there, guys, just remember there are bat lists on the NCAA Central Hub. My recommendation is print those out. don't bring them on the field with you, but have them accessible. If somehow a coach doesn't have one or something like that, I would throw it in my gear bag. That way, if you're changing out of the car, you know it's in the trunk. And if you're changing out of the locker room, you know it's just not all that far away in the locker room. The coaches should have them too, but it's always good to have that stuff printed out in case we have to reference it. I think the NCAA has done a pretty good job just saying this bat is legal, that bat is illegal, because what we don't want is, you showing up on a Tuesday saying that's predominantly white, and I show up on a Wednesday and say, no, that bat's fine. So we do have those bat lists. Use them, print them, keep them in your bag. Probably won't pull them out all year, but it's good to have them there with your rule book and your mechanics manual.
Yeah, it's a great point, Alex. And, one thing and one reason why I mentioned earlier in the call about confirming that their bats are okay, part of that is to confirm that they're all of the right color, okay? It just covers you, and it's confirming with them that they are, they have a list. They should know which is legal and illegal, and they should know that before the season. But obviously there's situations we may still run into this. One other point, guys, I want to make as far as the 20-second rule goes and using the wristband. We're going to talk about 20-second here in a couple minutes, but as far as using that wristband, guys, when there's runners on, they still have to deliver the pitch within 20 seconds, so that doesn't change. One thing to bear in mind here, if the pitcher is in the windup, all right, and he has to look at that wristband, if he makes any movement with runners on, say a runner on third base, associated with beginning that motion to the plate just to look at that wristband, that's a balk, all right? So we aren't going to ignore any pitching regulations or any rules just so they can look at that wristband. They still have to follow all those regulations. And the other point I want to make is when we're in the set position, if they take that sign not in contact with the rubber, they have to toe the rubber, look into the catcher as if they're receiving a sign from the catcher, and then come to that complete stop. So this was talked about just to try to avoid a situation where there would be a quick pitch. So once again, they take the sign with runners on in the set position, off of the rubber. They have to toe the rubber, look into the catcher, simulating taking a sign, even if they really aren't, and then come to that set. So now it is legal in this situation, essentially, to take a sign by looking at that wristband, not in contact for the rubber. So some key things to think about in applying this rule. Before we jump into the 20-second, guys, let's just remember some of the rules from last year, and just make sure you take a brief look at them starting before the first time you get on the field. Just review the pitching positions. These are things that constantly come up: the hit by pitch rule, the obstruction, and then our trips. All right. We all did a really good job last year of all of that, but just make sure you review all that. I think most of them were non-issues, and we did a really good job with it, but let's also just make sure we review all of those situations going into the season. And remember, guys, recording of the offensive and defensive trips. We still want you guys on the field, at least one umpire to write down in addition to what the plate umpire, and record those changes or those trips. So in a two-man game, obviously the base umpire is going to record the trips. In a three-man, let's have you one do it, because obviously with all the work that U3 has to do with the stopwatch, that's a lot for him to have to deal with. And if you're working a four-man game, let's have that U3 record the trips. So let's get into 20 seconds. Alex, you want to kick it off? Yep, I'll get going. So, guys, this has obviously been a much debated rule, and it's going to be difficult. But let's think about it this way: we have to make sure that we enforce all rules that are in the rule book. We're not asking anyone to completely ignore a rule. That would be wrong. But in knowing this rule, we have to be aware of our other responsibilities that we have while the pitcher's in contact with the rubber. Okay. We certainly don't want you guys to miss balks, pickoffs, plays like that because we're staring at a stopwatch, okay? So we have to make sure that we're doing our best and trying our best to enforce this, but also being aware that there's a lot of things that are going on at the same time, okay? One thing that I would suggest to you guys is whoever has a stopwatch, whether it's a base umpire and a two-man, second base umpire and a four-man, or third base umpire and a three-man, just make sure that you make it very visible that you have that stopwatch. We want everyone to know that we're using it, that we have it. In between innings for the 120 seconds, let's make sure that it's out there. They know that we're timing this, we're doing our best. Being mindful, like I said before, that there's a lot of things that we have to look at and try to manage here. I want to talk about the plate umpire and how he manages the game. And this is really no different, guys, than what we've talked about in the past. Let's make sure that during that 120 and in between batters in an inning, let's make sure that we get batters up there efficiently. And let's communicate when they have one pitch left, two pitch left, it's coming down, new batters in the middle of an inning. Let's make sure they get up there in a timely fashion. I mean, if we manage this game, guys, this should be a non-issue. We just have to make sure we follow through. Base umpires, if guys are getting close, they're running late, urge them to speed it up. Tell them we're not looking to make this call, but we'll call it if we have to. But let's work with the players, the batters, and the pitchers to make sure that we communicate to all the players on the field that, let's speed it up. One thing that we've seen just in the first couple of weeks of some of our camps and scrimmages that we've been around, and one thing that I noticed also is plate umpires, guys, let's make sure that we're constantly putting the ball back in play. And it's something that we should have been doing for years. A lot of us have probably gotten out of the habit of it. But, when we have a foul ball with runners on now, it's very important that the plate umpire puts that ball back into play because that's what starts the clock again, okay? So let's all get in a better habit of making sure that we follow up and put that ball back in play. There's a few guys that have contacted me and asked me about using those timing devices that you attach to your belt. In a perfect world, much like in college basketball where they supply them with some of those timing devices on the back of their belts, until the NCAA or some conferences decide that they want to spend the money to supply that stuff for us, we are not asking you guys to go spend the money on those. My personal feeling, guys, is that I think it might create some inconsistencies with some guys that have the timing device opposed to the guys that are just merely using their stopwatches. So for me, I would suggest that we just use stopwatches and don't even deal with those timers on our belts. And that's just my opinion on it. Alex, anything to add?
Guys, sorry, I had a dog barking issue, and I didn't really want you guys to listen to that, so I apologize. I've got a Australian Shepherd attack dog that thinks she's about 100 pounds when she's about 40. So, but just in general on this rule, I mean, as we look at it from the idea of the number of umpires that we have on the field, when we're in a two-man system, and obviously the base umpire's got a ton of responsibilities, and this is, again, something Chris had already touched on. I would rather have a pitcher pitch at 21 seconds than have us miss a balk because somebody's looking at a stopwatch. So, again, not saying ignore a rule or anything like that, and certainly, got to have that watch out, and you got to find a way that's going to kind of work for you in terms of the watch. I mean, I certainly wouldn't, if I was out there in a two-man, wouldn't want to be taking it out and tucking it in and taking it out and tucking it in every second. I think we're probably not all that far away from taking the stopwatch completely off the shoelace and kind of leaving it in our left hand in the same manner that we do an indicator as the plate umpire. And if we can kind of get in the habit of being able to glance at it and things like that, certainly we want to enforce this rule where applicable, but I don't think we want to miss anything out there because we're worried about, are we at 19, 20, 21 seconds. And just to reiterate kind of what Brian said, and I know Chris has said it too, we do have a warning out there for the pitcher. So, use the warning in a couple different ways. There's the kind of informal warning of, hey, we got to pick up the pace a little bit here. And then there's the formal, hey, this is this warning for this pitcher. So, that's just in a nutshell. Do the best that you can with it. I know that we've talked to George and Don and Scott and some of the regional evaluators. And, if they go to a game and you don't have a watch out at all, whether it be between innings or between pitches, they're not going to be too happy, and neither are Chris and I. At the same time, we understand that there's a lot of things to watch and a lot of things going on out there. And, I mean, even in a three-man system, we've got a lot of responsibilities. So, just keep that in mind and do the best that you can with it. The one thing that I will ask is if any of you guys are at a game and you have any coaches that are particularly harping on this rule, it's something that I would like to know about. I know Chris would like to know about. And I'm talking about wanting, someone really barking for enforcement of the rule right at 20 seconds or doing anything like having a stopwatch in the dugout that they're timing along with you. Those are things that Chris and I really need to know about. So if you're working a series or a D1 non-conference and you're the crew chief and something like that came up, that's worth an email or a phone call after a game just to say, hey, this was going on. I think this is a rule that all of us need to work together on. And, Chris and I are hopefully going to be a part of making it better for everybody. But we need to have an idea of what's going on from the coordinator side, from the coach's side, from the umpire's side. So, and our hope here is in the same way that there was a lot of anxiety about all the mound trip changes last year and all the changes we had, and 2-3 weeks into the season we were cruising along and everybody was doing pretty well with it. Our hope is that we'll have that same effect here, and some of our anxiety for the last 4 or 5 weeks and into the first couple weeks will be quelled pretty quickly because much like people just stayed away from the pitcher so they didn't get charged with a trip, hopefully people will just pitch the ball so they're nowhere near the 20-second rule. So that's kind of my 2 cents. And, again, for those of you guys that are working two-man and you've got a stopwatch in the middle of the diamond, it's a new day. We've seen a lot of different changes in baseball, both at our level and the major league level. So this is just another piece of it, and we kind of adapt to it and do the best we can. And, we're here to help you work through it. If you had something crazy happen and you want to talk about it, pick up the phone. We'll talk about it. And the genesis of this is trying to make our game better. Whether it will or not, that's to be determined. But whoever thought of this was trying to make the game better. And I'm all about trying to make the game better for everyone involved. And so let's try to support this, do what we need to do, and offer constructive feedback as it goes along.
Yeah, great, Alex. A couple more points, guys. One answer we really, really want to stay away from if somebody is asking us about this time is please don't make the comment that you don't have a visible clock on the wall that I can't call this. Okay, that's not a good answer. Not an answer they're going to want to hear, and quite honestly, it's not an answer that's appropriate. All right, and somehow we just have to communicate we're doing our best. We have a lot to see out here, and certainly we'll enforce it if we think there's a violation. I can tell you the couple of weeks down our camps in the Carolinas, I had a stopwatch just watching games, and there were very few, if any, instances where we were really getting close or I had violations. And also, going into the season, I think any of you guys that are basketball officials, you may have that kind of internal clock in your head, and certainly I'm not asking you to chop it out in the field like you would be on a basketball court. But, one practice that we had during the camps is, maybe just take your stopwatch out, count in your head what you think 20 is, and then look down and see how close you are. I think we should all have a pretty good idea as we're working with that stopwatch. We should know in our head when we are getting close and when those situations arise where, we have to start managing and communicating with people and working with them. So just some food for thought, guys. All right, Alex.
All right, guys, just a little bit of a review of uniforms. There are no changes, but for our black shirt default, we wear the gray panel, charcoal gray pants. We all know that. Just in terms of hats here, Division I Conference Series, we wear the conference hat. Pretty much everything else, we wear a United hat. That includes Division I non-conference, Division III conference and non-conference, and then all of our JUCO and Penn State schools. If you are working for John at Hofstra, Northeastern, Delaware, any of those CAA schools that kind of touch our footprint a little bit, the CAA does wear a CAA hat, conference and non-conference, and the MEAC, same thing. For if anyone's going to Del State or anywhere like that, the MEAC wears a MEAC hat for conference and non-conference. And for CAA non-conference, we have that kind of same blank shirt and all that good stuff. In terms of winter jackets, so we've got 2 jackets here. We've got, we really have 3 jackets actually, but for the first jacket is the Majestic with the tear-off sleeve. That's kind of the default jacket. And then we have a winter jacket with the gray inserts. That's the special order jacket that you can get from Keith. And that's our winter jacket. And then I know Keith has introduced a plate pullover with some gray panels at the top as well. The real thing here, guys, is we need those jackets to match. So if somebody doesn't have a winter jacket and they only have the Majestic or Smitty, whichever model they have, then we all got to just suck it up and layer up and do it. We can't have somebody wearing a winter jacket with gray panels in a 3-man crew and then the other base guy wearing the Majestic jacket. It just doesn't look right. Obviously, we have plenty of instances where the plate umpire is wearing some sort of different uniform than the base umpire. So the plate umpire might be out there in short sleeves, and then you can wear whatever jacket you want, or things of that nature. The one thing that drives me up the wall is wearing a short sleeve shirt with an Under Armour underneath it. Let's just get rid of that completely. I don't want to see guys with the long sleeve Under Armour with a short sleeve shirt. I hope we've eliminated that already, but I always have to mention it. We're uniformed police. If you screw up and we find out about it, we're going to call you and say, hey, can you do the right thing and get the right equipment? And you'll probably say, hey, I left it in the car. I forgot. And it is what it is. We're not uniformed police. There's no fines. There's no craziness. It's just we're all representing each other. Chris and I, United, all those different brands that we have, there's a uniform, and it's just part of managing your business. So if you have any questions on that, you can certainly send me an email. But again, it's not a Gestapo type situation. If we screw up and we got the wrong uniform, we'll get through it, and we'll go from there. So that's my little bit on uniforms for the night.
Great. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Danny now. Danny?
Good evening, everybody. Briefly, for anybody that inquires, there will be a replay of this conference call. It will be posted on our Facebook page and will be accessible on our website. Tomorrow's a travel day for me, so I would expect to have it posted by Thursday or Friday. In terms of our social media platforms, there has been a subtle change that many of you may not have even noticed. All of our platforms are now consistent. Everything is at United Umpires. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Everything is at United Umpires. And I would just suggest to all of you to monitor at least one of those platforms. That's where all of our up-to-date information can be found. In terms of preseason cage work, just since I've been on the phone, actually, as I look at my email inbox, I've had 2 emails regarding cage work and live pitching opportunities. I just want to thank everyone who has already been conveying this information so far this year. As Chris mentioned, it's important for all of us to see pitches. So I know Chris appreciates it. I appreciate it. Alex appreciates it. Just getting all of this information out there. For anyone going forward, as we have the run-up to the season, if there are any opportunities that you know of with your local universities, just shoot me an email. My email address is dmiller@umpires.org. Final thing. As we do every year, I ask that if you have any specific interesting plays, whether it's 2-man or 3-man, if there is any way for that to be sent to me so I can then post it for all of us to learn from. Just, I guess the process that I would like you to go through is, if you have one of those plays, just look into whether there is a file that does exist. If there is a YouTube replay, something along those lines, either clip the file for me or just send me an email and let me know where I can find it, and then we can certainly post that as we see fit. The last thing, it's always great when we are working games and we see the photo galleries. If you're working games and you see a photo gallery of your crew, just once again, shoot me an email, send me a link, and I will post as many umpire pictures as I can. That's all I have for everyone this evening, and just thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Danny. Guys, we're so lucky to have Danny doing what he does and putting up the content, and he puts a lot of hours and time and effort into it. So, and I know he works really hard to get that stuff out there and highlight, when we're doing things really well out there, and we want to see that stuff up there, and we want to get it out there. So certainly, follow Danny's advice. If you have it, get it to him, and we'll do our best to get it out there. One mechanic thing, guys, actually maybe two, and obviously the purpose of this phone call wasn't specifically to talk about a bunch of on-the-field stuff. It's just to kick us off. But one thing that we want to talk about here is in the 3-man system with runners on first base and our starting position. As coordinators and with the NCAA, we all came to agreement this year that there is really only one acceptable starting position with that runner on first base and the first base umpire, and that's being on the line, not off the line, not moving on the pickoff. It's being in one stationary position on the line. Now, distance from the base, there's a lot of variables involved there based on who's the runner, how far his lead, how big his lead is, how close he is, and a bunch of things to take into consideration. So, we want to be up close to that first base bag looking through into the pitcher. But once again, we're on the line. We're not off the line and foul and moving back towards the line or anything like that. So I'm going to be looking for it. I know our NCAA evaluators are going to be looking for it. And I know that a lot of guys have seen things on television or have toyed with some things and trying to get better looks. And let's be honest, a lot of this is driven by replay in Major League Baseball. And that's the way they do it. But moving forward in college baseball, we just have that one acceptable position. And I guess really the only thing that we discussed as coordinators is, and I haven't seen this too many times, maybe once or twice, and I really couldn't believe that I saw it. But guys, as a third base umpire, if we have a runner on first base and someone wants to set up on the outfield side of second base, so you have someone sliding towards you, I get it's one of our guiding principles. I get you've probably seen some Major League guys do it, but we're just not doing that in college baseball. So those are really the only two mechanics things going into the season. Obviously, as we get rolling, there'll be some other things we can talk about. So, guys, that's really about it. This was really just to kick us off and get us rolling and started and get on the right foot going into the season. Like I said earlier, and I know I'm really excited to get going, and I've spoken with a bunch of umpires that feel the same way. So if you guys have any questions or concerns or anything, obviously with these phone calls, we don't answer a lot of questions, but if you do have something you want to discuss, then reach Alex or myself or Brian or even Danny offline here, and we'll certainly do our best to answer your questions. Alex, anything more from you?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to add was, guys, a lot of times you guys are conduits for new members of ours. So whether that be umpires that have worked college baseball for other assigners or coming from other parts of the country, or probably the most prevalent would be umpires that have worked high school or travel ball and are looking to get into JUCO and things like that. And if you would all do me a favor, if you come across people like that, start to direct them to our websites and tell them about our training program and our showcases and our clinics. That's really the way for people to start to break into college baseball. You have no idea how many emails that I get on a weekly basis that are guys asking those kinds of questions, and they've been passed along to me by umpires in our group, which I certainly appreciate. But just given, especially as we get into the spring here, what our level of commitment is to our schools and to you guys, and those kind of emails hit the back burner a little bit sometimes, and I certainly don't want to discourage or not answer someone, but there's only so many minutes in the day. So if you have people that have interest in that type of thing from the high school level or other college groups in the area, start to direct them to those places rather than maybe just saying, hey, email Alex or email Chris. I think they can get a lot of information from the websites, from the Facebook page, from understanding our training program. And the more you guys can do to help us in terms of that, it just makes our life a little bit easier, so we're not starting at ground zero on May 1st when someone wants to know how they become a college umpire in 2021, and Chris and I are fielding 26 phone calls from coaches at the same time. So anything you guys can do to help and direct people in that direction, as opposed to just kind of, hey, just email Chris and Alex, they'll get you involved, or they'll tell you what they need to do. So that would be a big help. And then just in closing, I want to wish everybody the best of luck on the season. I know some of you guys down south may have actually even started in Virginia there already with some D2 and D3, and I know we've got quite a few games kicking off here on Friday. So just use your brain, exercise common sense out there. Common sense is going to get us through a lot. And just in terms of a lot of the rules that we have and this stopwatch rule, don't be in a situation where a coach is quoting you as saying that you don't like the rule. In terms of those kind of opinions and the opinions you might have on some of the rules we have to enforce now, the best thing to do is kind of just keep that in your hip pocket, enforce it as best you can, do the best you can, and don't let that quote show up on Chris's email that says, hey, so-and-so was lamenting that this rule is stupid and we shouldn't enforce it. And believe me, that phone call will come. I will have it, and Chris will have it, and then we'll have to deal with it. So silence can't be quoted, especially in that realm. And everyone have a great year, and you can always get me via email or cell, and we'll go from there. Thanks, guys. Chris?
Awesome, guys. Yeah, same here, guys. Best of luck, and I'm going to see both of us, Alex and I will see a bunch of you guys out there throughout the season. So best of luck, and let's have a good one. A reminder for guys that work in the America East, conference or non-conference, just stay on the line. In about a minute or two, we'll say in 1 minute we'll talk to you guys. All right. So once again, guys, good night. Anybody who's working in the America East this year, conference or non-conference games, I was asked to supply an email address to the conference, and you guys probably have received that independent contractor form. So I've fielded a number of phone calls and emails about that. Long story short, guys, is they are requiring that for every official in every sport that works for America East. So I was going to send an email out, but I knew we were going to have this call, so I just waited a couple of days to address it with everybody here. So if you have one of those forms, yes, fill it out, return it to the America East. Like I said earlier, it's what they require, and I'm guessing moving forward that's going to be something we're going to do every year. So hopefully that answers any questions there.
And guys, that's not uncommon across the country for different conferences. No, I would say it's probably uncommon that we haven't done them at the D1 level in the past, because most of the non-Northeast D1 conferences I've worked, they have required them. So just send it back. Don't let that be a reason that Chris has got to take you off of the game because the office calls and says, hey, we have Alex Skandalis on our game tomorrow and we don't have a form from him. So just get that stuff done, get it back. Again, it's kind of just part of the management of what you've got going on.
Hey, Alex, quick question on that.
Yeah, Joe Kornhoff. I can tell your voice.
Hey, I love it. That's
scary.
What I like to hear. So I got the form, filled it out, and, you had to, sign it through some app or something like that. If I signed it through that app, did they get it back? Or do I need to, print this thing out, hand sign it, scan it back in, and send it over an email? Because it was kind of confusing how I did the app thing, and I don't know if it was submitted or not.
That app works. So if you did that through the app, they got it.
Is there any way that you can
email?
Is there any way that you can confirm with the conference
no.
Who has and who hasn't?
You're not going to get an email back. I'm sure that they got it.
Yeah, guys,
it's an e-signed document, just like an insurance form.
Yeah, I'll
if you did it through the app on your cell phone, I received an email.
Can you please let Chris talk? Can you please let Chris talk? Thank you.
Guys, I will email Chad with America East tomorrow, get an answer on that. I'm quite sure once you've done that, guys, that you're all set. And I also will ask him at some point if he can provide me with a list of guys who haven't, and then obviously we can make sure that this is taken care of. But let me work on that on my end, and we'll go from there. All right, fair enough.
Chris, do you want to just give a brief overview of kind of what the America East has done with fees and all that kind of stuff?
Yep. Yeah. So, guys, entering into this season, we decided to go with a different route in a proposal for a flat fee. We're at 800 flat with the mileage kicker for conference. And I'm sure there was probably some sticker shock at first, and it wasn't quite where we wanted to be. But like everything else, it's a work in progress. So when looking at the schedules, we worked really hard to make sure that, there's going to be some weekends we are close to home, and there's going to be some weekends we're going to travel. And when you're home and closer to home, you're going to be making more than you ever have. And let's face it, if you can drive 20 miles and make $800 with no hotel and no gas and no mileage, you come out ahead. And we tried to balance that with obviously some of those long trips. So, it's not ideal, but once again, through our scheduling, I think for the most part, you guys are going to be coming out ahead based on, if it's 2, 3, 4, whatever amount of America East assignments that you guys did receive. We worked hard to make sure that you guys were still ahead on that. Like fees and all the other conferences, it's a work in progress, and certainly we want you guys to know that we're working hard to continue to get fair rates and fees for you guys and working. But we're working on it, and that's just basically, in a nutshell, where we're at conference-wise for the America East. Unfortunately, I worked hard to try to get us some tolls for Stony Brook, which it doesn't look like it's going to work out, and pretty disappointed with that. But once again, it's a work in progress. We're working hard to make sure we rectify those situations, and hopefully through scheduling and consistency with some other assignments in other sites, it all evens out in the end. Now, as far as non-conference, we got the game fee up, and you do receive the mileage like we have in the past. So hopefully that answers that question. And like I said, it's just kind of where we're at now at this point with the America East. All right. If you have any specific questions or concerns on that, like earlier I said in the phone call, then reach out to me. There really isn't a whole lot to be said on it, but if you want to discuss it, you always can contact me on it. That's really all we have on that, guys. Alex, anything to add?
No, just especially if you're going to Stony Brook from Connecticut, check your mileage and let me know if the arbiter has you going over a body of water. That's the big one. It's the school out on the island. From New Jersey, it's not a problem, but from Connecticut, it thinks you're going to take the ferry. So just let me know, and I'll have to manually adjust it, and then we'll go from there. I'll do whatever it is on that end. I'll make sure it gets updated. But please don't wait till one day before the series or the game, because if the school's pulled it down already, now I'm in a situation where they're going to have pulled it, and now we got to try to find another $60 in mileage, and it's just a hassle. So take a look at all the numbers, see if they make sense. It's like 58 cents a mile these days. It's capped at 200. So, and it's round trip in the America East. So take a look at it, and if there's any issues, let me know. Don't let me know for $1.10. That's not going to make me happy. But if it's, significant, certainly let me know. Good.
All right, guys. Well, like everyone else, I want to thank you for taking the time to jump on tonight, and we do appreciate the time away from family. And like I said, any issues, then reach out to Alex or myself. And if nothing else, then enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you out there, guys. Best of luck moving forward.
Hey, Chris, right quick, Brian O'Rother.
Yeah.
Hey, I just sent you guys an email about those forms, so just wanted to let you know.
Okay, sounds good, guys. All right, thanks, Brian. Gentlemen,
you,
have
Chris.
a good night. We'll talk soon.